having to come in from where it was, obviously in the bottom, and having to rebuild. What are some of the big fans know about wins and losses, but what are the things behind the scenes people don't know about?
Yeah, I think when you start to build a program, it starts with like trust, getting to know each other, but also trust in the approach we're taking, trust that the opportunity for the players is going to be there. So and I think about that word in a lot of things when you're building from the bottom up, start ground level. And that's how we've tried to approach it here, starting in year one and staying consistent with that approach. And then you build on some trust. Obviously, the competition and the standard of at a really high level and those things, but foundationally, start to build a program, it starts with trust.
We're on the stage up there talking about retention and how important it is for you guys. What does retention do for a football team, and what are the sorts of perks that you get from it?
I think in retaining players, you know them better. They've bought into the approach, the way we're going about it. They believe in what their opportunity in it. Oftentimes, the more you retain in your program, those guys start to speak your language, right? For the new players, so they can then be the example of how we're trying to approach that. And so, let alone retaining players, they should be improving from year to the next, and so you're keeping a lot of good players that way.
Jonathan, what do you expect to see from Hayden in terms of like the traffic control responsibilities of the quarterback, like getting in and out of plays, switching sides of formations? Do you think he's at a spot where he can?
Yeah, we're going to build on that. He did some of that in his first year. Definitely, again, a year under his belt, his confidence, his comfort level. I think that all of us, for the coaches, really excited about the continuity of the staff and the players back on offense, so that they're in the second year of the system, learn from experiences. And so Aiden's a good communicator. He recognizes it well, and so we'll open up that a little bit in regards to him at the line of scrimmage and changing things.
What are the things that are different when you look back to a year ago when you were in this position? Like, what are the things that have changed for this program from day one to today, whatever number we're on now?
Right. Well, just familiar with our process, doing it again the next year. Familiar with the league in regards to being able to watch not just the teams we played last year, but the tape that you digest of the league throughout the season. Knowing where areas where think about position groups and how they can improve, or what we need to bring in to create competition. That's different than last year, because just you know them. You know what you got better. A year in even the weight room. You think about the training and going through that cycle a second time now versus doing it the first time. That's in a better place. So there's a lot of things. That's what I talk about. We learned a ton in year one that we're trying to improve on in year two.
Regarding playoff expansion, Tony Petitti's adamant that he wants the 4 auto bids and the play-in games. What would the play-in games do for Michigan State?
I think it creates excitement to those games in November, leading into those games, or the play-in games. You think about it, you get into the first week of November, look at statistically, I think it was like 12 teams still would have been alive to earn opportunity at those things. And so that's why I said I appreciate Tony's, his communication, the Zoom calls we had, I don't know, the last 6 months as coaches, involved in that conversation, ideas. It's well thought out, and it does. He said it married regular season with the postseason in such I think would be exciting way to make meaningful games happening in November.
And then with the Big Ten winning back-to-back national championships, has that shown up in recruiting for Michigan State or in the portal for you guys?
I think it's a great selling point that you'll be playing on the best of the best, and that's what you want to sign up to compete against. The exposure that comes with playing the best of the best, and the success of the league and those teams the last couple of years, and not just the winners, right? We've been other guys that have gone deep into the playoff that only helps in recruiting.
I may be paraphrasing, but Jay Battis talked about how football has to be successful for an athletic program in this day and age. Does that create a bit of pressure for you and your program to be successful this season, now that it's a new administration and there's so many changes?
I think he's accurate that football does, drives a lot with athletics and the school itself and things. We want to be successful, and that pressure's always there. And I've appreciated Jay from the day one of coming in and talking about partnering, and he's been around some big-time football, looking at his past experiences previously with Georgia Tech and the trend they've done football-wise the last couple of years. Obviously, he's got a long stint at Alabama where they're doing it as good as anybody, and so I look forward to working with his expertise on contributing to the football program being successful.
What are the sorts of things that you've noticed that really changed based his first? I know he's only been 37 days. He's been in office, but what are the changes looking like?
Again, it's a short amount of time. I do think he's come in with the mindset he wants to learn about the place and learn the people, which I appreciate. And I do think he's, like I mentioned, been around doing this thing at a high level from a fundraising, leadership side, partnering with coaches. That was an early conversation we had with all coaches at Michigan State, talking about finding ways to partner and really support their programs.
When you look at today's modern football coach, fans see NIL money and all that, but they don't understand this isn't the pros, they're kids. And when you look at Aiden last year, he did develop and was a better quarterback as the year went on. I know that maybe some stats wouldn't show it. But do you think maybe that's being lost in the college game, the giving these kids room to mature and grow up?
Right. I think it's been less seen or focused on because of so much other things to think about, talk about, because you're on it. These guys are still 18 to 22. There's still amount of growth and development are taking place. In ways, yes, they should earn or be compensated. I'm not against that in any way. But that is just a piece of the pie of their experience. I think about a high school player coming to college, high school football, step up to college football. That's going to be a big step up. Speed of play, physicality, schemes, techniques, all of that. Same way in school, right? You're going to a high school degree, big time, but you're stepping up in the classroom as well. That's not always easy for guys. And so all of that life that's still going on between 18 to 22, college coaching is still quite a bit about that.
Jonathan, Jeremiah Smith last year against you guys, it was kind of the game nationally that people really started to pay attention to him. I know he's not on the schedule for you guys this year, but just talk about how difficult he is to deal with and prepare for.
I mean, really difficult. He just jumps out, especially seeing it in person. The talent, he's gifted, the contested catch, separation, the physicality, breaking tackles, hand-eye coordination, one-handed grabs. I mean, he is a special player.
Jonathan, with Childs, we can see the throwing and so forth, and you mentioned the progress he made second half of the season. Something we may not always be aware of is making checks at the line of scrimmage with run plays. How was he with that last year? Did that improve as well? Did that take some time to come around, or was he already pretty good at that? Might that be better this year?
I think overall I would call him solid. I do think from week 1 to week 12 he grew, and we put a little bit more on his plate on that. So he was solid with it. There weren't many snaps that he got us in a play that we could have executed. Right, we were just flat out outnumbered or something. We just got out techniqued or outmanned. We got to get better on that side of it, because that's a component of our run game, is the quarterback getting us in a good play.
He's pretty good.
And yeah, we feel solid about it.
You mentioned this is your second year going through this, and that you've maybe what adjustments have you made as far as your processes go that you've learned having been here for a full year, a full season, all that going into fall camp?
I think continuing to stay aligned and really allowing. I think we got a big time staff and some people in the building that are really good at their jobs, and continuing to allow them to run with things. I think about it from our coordinator sides of offense, defense, and those guys being aligned together. We're headed toward a month where they're going to go against each other nonstop, right? And so those two getting what they need out of practice and for both of them to be successful. And so I say all that to say, continue to be aligned and allowing the people to continue to suggest, have an idea. We did it this way. What do we think about tweaking, whether it's practice plan or the walkthrough timing, all kinds of stuff like that. I'm looking forward to seeing that play out.
What is the health status look like going into fall camp? Is everyone pretty healthy, or are there any injuries?
Yeah, I feel really solid about that. We definitely have a guy or two that's going to be watched, limited in August. We don't have a season-ending injury currently, which we just met with the trainer yesterday, which was encouraging. And that's always the balancing act. You just think about this practice, get better, but we also want to stay healthy. That's where I'm back to both sides working together. How we practice matters, right? We've got to make this thing competitive. It's fast. At the same time, taking care of each other as much as we can. Going back to growth, year 1 to year 2, retaining those type of players, believe in that process, and then that's how they practice. Is they know I play corner, but I want to compete against this wideout throughout practice, get better. At the same time, I want to make sure this wideout is healthy so he can go score some touchdowns for us. Yeah.
Earlier in the summer, Nick Marsh mentioned he kind of took a pay cut to stay at Michigan State. I'm curious, when you see that level of commitment from a player in a day and age where in some way. What does that mean for him to stay with you?
It means a lot for us. For a guy, sure, he had opportunities, but it goes back to then him believing in our approach. I do think he has a great chance to flourish at this place, leave a legacy at this place. I think he sees all of that.
What do you see for him in year two? Like, what areas do you think he can really
Well, I think we're going to put more on his plate in regards to moving him around. We can't just let him sit at one outside position and know the defense know where he's at. So we're going to challenge him that way. He handled a lot of that in the spring really, really well. And so for him to continue to add to his versatility within the offense.
And you adding different size receivers, you feel like that helps you?
Yeah, we needed to. Different skill sets, more guys, because Nick's such a talent. He is going to see recognition of coverage. So they're going to put two guys on him or cloud that side, those type of things. We got to have threats on the other side to go attack, and I think we've done that in the receiver room and with the tight ends that we got coming back.
With the number of new receivers, was the summer optional workouts, quarterback and receiver, is that even more important this summer?
Vitally.
Have you heard back from Aiden or the receivers about getting a rapport among the new receivers with him?
Yep, I've heard good things. I will say, the start of January, spring ball, and then post-spring ball is kind of what you're getting at to tighten up those, things. First experience with spring ball with those 6 new guys, receiver-wise in particular. June, I know a lot of good work got done, and then into July. So the early reports I've gotten is that it's been a great summer for timing, getting on the same page that way.
What do you think about a guy like McCray in that slot area? Looks like
Yeah, he helps us. I think his skill set is natural in there. Nifty, because you got to avoid some traffic when you play inside. Let alone he's closer to the line of scrimmage, quick hitters to get him the ball, and that fits his skill set in a big way.
What's it like with the reduction of walk-ons? Something that I'm sure you're sympathetic to. Are there difficult decisions to get down to 105 when it used to be the case, or what's that like?
Yeah, it got to the point where we headed toward 105, but then, and I think this was fair and good, that you had some more or less exemptions right above your 105, and so we still have a good amount of walk-ons, which I appreciate. Contributing to the program. If it's something you find a good player out of that, they're a vital role for us to be able to run a program, and so our numbers will be over 105 for this fall.
It's kind of a grandfather rule type.
Correct.
In the future, having that 105, does that seem like a low ceiling for him?
I don't. I think it's low because I'm all about opportunities. This is a great game, and for more to be able to. It's a deep question. There's a lot of issues that arise and all that, but I think the more you have, the more opportunity there is. 105 seems light.
Coach, what would you like to see different from your team this year, offensively, defensively, special teams? Your coaching.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, I think offensively, it starts with the line of scrimmage. You've got to find a way to be more balanced, so more consistent in the run game. You're going to set the pass game up, and it starts at the line of scrimmage. We want to see that. Defensively, we've got to be able to affect the passer more than we did a year ago. And again, that's why back to year 1 to year 2 retention schemes, knowing what we need to improve on. Special teams wise, we got to be really steady and solid in the running game. We got a good punter, and so we want to make that a weapon for us in the punt side of things on special teams. I think coaches, we got to continue to adjust, right? We do something well, there's good coaches in this league. They're going to take that away, and so all of us being ready to adjust just because we're doing something well, we know they're going to be able to shore that up, be the next step in the scheme. Excuse me.
A lot of the guys that you picked up in the transfer, I think we talked about this in spring camp, but there's guys from all sorts of different levels. D2, you guys added in the most recent report, like I played in Canada a couple weeks ago. And I'm curious, when you are setting the lens of where you're going to look for talent, like, why are you going to all these different spaces? It seems like a lot of teams want to add the Power 5, D1 kind of guys, like, to take that breadth of recruiting that goes into that.
Well, we want to be thorough in the evaluation of it as much as we can. And so we talk about wanting to evaluate. Well, we want to evaluate off of snaps in college football, playing against 20-year-olds. And so we did take that approach of prioritizing guys that have played meaningful snaps at, call it whatever level, but against college players, and take a deep dive in the evaluation side of that. So we tried to err more on a proven player that has played against other 20-year-olds.
Is there a little bit of money ball behind it too, in some regards?
Yeah, that's part of this balancing. I don't know if it's money ball, but you are balancing, what you're investing now on a player. And so whether he's 17 to 20 to 22, if he's got multiple snaps against 20 to 22-year-olds, you feel a little bit more proven commodity that way.
So you guys had a pretty good June on the recruiting trail. What's your message to recruits this year compared to last year at this time?
Well, I think you talk about the momentum we've got. We feel really good on the recruiting side. 26 class of that consistent message of approach, development, and that part. I think one of our better things has been on the recruiting side to get them around our current players and the belief and the growth and development that has been taking place with our current roster to have them be a lead part of the recruiting side.
John, when you played at Oregon last year on the Friday night, just what logistically or planning wise was different that you did do, and having done it, anything that you would do differently if you do it again on a Friday night?
I think about the logistics of playing on Friday night itself, that we were down a day because we're headed to the West Coast this next year, and we're going to take 2 nights and go a day earlier. It just was not feasible to do it in regards to preparation on a short week like that. And so that added a component. That's why I go back to this year 1 to year 2 learning, and I think every program coach learned from the extensive travel. I mean, some of this travel matters, and there was things to learn from year 1 of the coast-to-coast conference now that guys are going to adjust off of it.
So with a Friday night road game, would you like to, I don't know how feasible or not it is, but would you like to potentially go out on a Wednesday?
You think about it, but again, that changes quite a bit in your preparation and what you're normally done. But let's face it, I'm willing to adjust to do that. I don't think we catch a Friday night road game like that this year, but when it comes, we're going to put some thought into it.
We talk about development, John, but do you think, I'm sure as you're selling recruits now here at Michigan State, that you obviously go back to your time at Oregon State, do you feel your staff got enough credit at Oregon State for the development? Because you're talking about where, you can call it what it is, you get a lot of 3-star guys, but you develop a lot of 3-star guys and NFL guys, and generally speaking, that doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah, I think you talk about selling, or recruits look into backgrounds of coaches and programs and positions and what's taking place, and we take pride in our approach and how we develop and treat them, and we talk about that on the recruiting side.
John, I know it's only been about a month, but just curious what you thought about working with Jay Badge, what sort of things as he brought to the table, discussions you guys might have had. I mean, sort of stuff, I guess, whatever you can share with us, but just what's that been like?
Yeah, I've been impressed from him coming in early on, describing ways of partnering, finding ways to help each individual coach, not just myself. His background of success in our particular sport of football. You look at what's taking place at Georgia Tech the last couple of years, football-wise. They got that thing in a solid setting. His experience being at Alabama, and that's best of the best in regards to the football program over the years. And so what he's bringing from that regard, I'm excited to continue to work with him.
John, between the end of last season and today, is there anything that you're pleasantly surprised with your program?
Well, I do like our additions we had in January, and I do like some of the development. Like the 3 guys we brought down here, these guys were here last season, what they've done January to this point, watched them work in the off season, going through spring ball, the influence, speaking the same language as coaches. I feel really good and like that.
When you look back in your football career, who's the biggest mentor you've had in your coaching career?
Yeah, Coach Chris Peterson, was with him 6 years, 2 at Boise and 4 as offensive coordinator at Washington. Still stay in touch with him today. He had a huge impact. And again, I've been around some big-time coaches on staffs and all that, but he's probably the lead kind of mentor in that area.
What was his impact? Like, what did he teach you?
Creativity, consistency, put some deep thought into, not always quick to react or quick to decide, perspective. As you're going through this race and chasing these things down, stay still a healthy perspective on why we're doing what we're doing.
We haven't had a chance to talk to you since the spring. You added a couple of defensemen, Cam Williams, Isaac Smith. What did you like about them on film, and what were first impressions?
Some of their athleticism, we felt like at that position we could still add some depth and opportunity in creating competition in that. I mean, those 2 guys, mentioned it earlier, it's an emphasis we've got to find ways to continue to affect the passer better than we did last year. And so adding to that room, that opportunity to affect the passer, we thought both those kids did.
It's hard to find guys that can do that. That's a premium.
And again, it's not going to just be all a one guy beat a one-on-one pass rush, right? We got to be able to cover better. We got to get the quarterback holding the ball longer. Maybe mix in a little bit more pressure, and then so all of that comes into effect with the quarterback.
The onboarding with those guys, do they come in and meet with you a couple times when they first get on campus, or how does that go?
Well, when we recruited them, I met with them a ton, but no, as they come, they hit their ground running, getting around the strength staff and diving into it and registering and all of that. So I'm not the first stop.
You touched on special teams a little bit ago. Kicker. What's your sort of confidence, comfort level with that? You didn't bring in a guy. Does that speak to maybe?
It speaks to some confidence we got in both Tarek and Martin, and then letting those guys compete. And I think that's when the cream rises to the top of true competition. We're going to continue that through August. Both of them had solid springs, and they're competing to kick field goals, but also the kickoff side. So we talked about it right after the season. Do we feel good like those two guys can continue to improve and be solid? And we're letting them go compete to do it.
Is Caden going to play long snap, or is he fully back out?
He's getting close. He's not completely full. He'll be in a limited to maybe start camp. But we anticipate him being full.
When are you starting? I don't know if you covered that. I was a little bit late.
Reporting day's Monday, and the first practice is Tuesday. Yeah.
John, there's always minor rule changes year to year for college football. That's just part of it. But what are your thoughts on a couple of them with the disconcerting signals and how you define action that simulates a snap versus not? How do you coach that where it's like stemming's allowed, but there's this thing?
It's not simple because it would have got solved if it was simple. Because depending on what side of the ball you are, perspective. If I think about it on defense, moving from one gap to the other, well, the offense can move, right? A guy can start on one side of the line of scrimmage, go to the other. It's just a little bit of like Harry high school gamesmanship. No one really wants to watch games, and if it's 3rd and 1, it's a game first down or going backwards just because it's something, right? We want the ball to get snapped. It's been a conversation. I remember, I think it was our May meetings, right? They're in the head officials. Bill's talking about it and how they're going to just continue to officiate and try to just find some consistency. That's another piece of it. Like one crew's calling it one way, and then literally the next week they're working to get some consistency. I think that'll help them.
And how will you define for your defenders what an athletic pace is? Defensive sub.
I haven't gotten to it, so we're gonna just try to do it right. But I'm not on the coaching side of it.
Can you reflect on the development of Stanton Hill, to a guy that was coming off injury last year to a guy that you're bringing into Las Vegas this year?
Yeah, he's worked really hard. Had the early injury before he really even arrived, and then just watching him grow through that, work through. Right, does a lot of off-season. Rehab and training and strength training, and now watching him work in the weight room, his confidence level on the post-injury here is athletic. He's come a long ways, man. He's a talented, gifted player, athletically, physically, and mentally.
What did you guys see during when he was coming in and when he was like to the point where he was getting early reps? When did you see like the light go on for him, or know that it was going to be like a
Right. I don't know if there was a certain time there was like, the light went on. We definitely early, once he's fully practiced, you could see flashes of how athletic and talented he was. Still, he had some time off before, and so he's working out the rust. But now I think he's cooking with gas.
Lose a lot of production, running back, your top 2.
Yep.
Some guys. Seems like there's competition there. What do you think about that?
Yeah, let's call it unproven but talented. I do think we got five guys that are going to compete. We do like to play more than just one back, but that's a spot where we're looking. The top 2 guys from last year's team are not here, and we got some young, good talent. Elijah, older transfers coming in. Back to the production question, the guy's almost 1,000-yard rusher in previous plays. But that room's going to be interesting to kind of see who the top couple guys become.
How are you approaching your scheduling going forward? I know some teams have taken different strategies. How do you look at that?
I haven't had deep conversations, especially with Jay arriving. I think we're kind of seeing let the dust settle on what the playoff format looks like and all of that. I do know currently those schedules are 6-8 years out, and so we haven't gotten in the weeds on it yet.
Is there a difference with your internal approach? Just last year, this time, there's some unknowns to different conference, different setting, and so forth. Now that you've been, it's a second lap through. Do you feel yourself any different? Like even more? I don't know if urgency is the right word or confidence, but Do you feel different internally about looking forward to
I
it?
do internally feel it's not comfort, it is some confidence that I've just been through it a year now, knowing what we've got, how much work's been put in place. Confident in approach ever since I started coaching, and the development and continuity, consistency, and now we've had a longer period of time of that. I think that adds to my confidence.
How much? Go ahead.
And you could probably answer this. Might take you 40 minutes to go through everything, but for Michigan State to get back to like the elite level of the Big Ten, what are the stair steps and what needs to be done to get there?
Yeah, I mean,
40 minutes probably.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot to that question. There's a lot of aspects of it. I do think back to a consistent approach of doing it at a high level. Everything you're doing, weight room to the schemes of it, how you're practicing, and how you're competing for 60 minutes. And so, I don't think we're far in regards to being able to win every game every time we line up. I look at a couple of games where got away from us, and that's some of it is self-inflicted. So we're starting with ourselves, getting a little bit better, and we've got a chance to be a whole lot better this next fall.
What percentage of your job is behind the scenes stuff, and has that improved since last year? Have you been able to get some of that off your plate, just focus on football, or has it gotten even more so?
Yeah, it's somewhat my approach, but my job is a lot of, call it behind the scenes. That's why I go back to the people you surround you with and allow them to do their work. And, on the coordinating side, those guys organize and heavy. Offense, defense, special teams, strength staff. I've been with Mike McDonald now. I think it's going on 13 years. Him operating and running new roles in college football. General manager Cole Moore and him heading up the personnel, recruiting side, and so letting those guys go to work where I'm feel confident with those pieces in place.
A year in, it's better.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you look back at getting it built at Oregon State, one of the staples was the outside zone, wide zone, and how well that became strong.
Yeah.
I assume that didn't get done in year number one. How long does it take offensive line group and running backs and everything and strength group to get that staple going?
Obviously it takes longer than we wanted in year one because it wasn't near the consistent level we do. We got to continue to adapt, and that's where, again, we're not in panic mode of just replacing the offense, but we do got to find ways for that to be more efficient. I'm not asking for 12, 15-yard runs every time we hand the thing off. We can't be going backwards, and so those kind of flaws, and then looking at ways to complement that scheme if we're not doing it at a high level to have some other answers.
Connor asked you earlier if you felt more pressure with the change in the AD, but I'm curious if you think there's just more pressure overall in year two in this day and age in college football with the turnover. It's a little bit more like the NFL, the expectations changing, that sort of thing.
I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the pressure. I've got some real urgency to get better to win, and so you start with that point. It doesn't change a lot of how I think about it. I do think in the realities of this day and age, portal, NIL, revenue, there is some urgency to get good.
You notice anything different with Hayden, just with his approach mentally? The physical stuff we sort of see, but as he's an older guy now, he's seen some action.
I think there's a little bit of just watching him operate now with John. John Boyer, new quarterback coach, came up in January to allow Brian Lindgren to be able to oversee a lot. Brian's still involved with the quarterbacks, but I think working relationship with Aiden and John, and really what John has done in that entire room, to be able to nail down on the details, footwork, meeting more. I think that's been a benefit that Aiden's enjoyed.
Would you agree that some of the throws that Childs made last year would be like 99 percentile throws that not a lot of guys around the country can make? And would you agree with that? And sometimes do you have to remind Aiden that he's in that? Or is he guy that has...
I think he makes it. He has the talent, and he did make some big-time throws that aren't always just athletically capable of others. And it's that balancing fine line of, because he's got a skill set to create so much, but picking and choosing when he's taking those shots and things. But he can make all the throws and be accurate with consistent throws. A lot of it comes down to protecting him better, getting open more, and him decision making.
And his confidence level, is that something you have to remind him that he's at that level, or is he fully aware?
I think he's aware. Yeah, I don't think his confidence has been shattered or shaken in any way. This guy's competitive. So I'm looking forward to him to let it rip again next year.
When Aiden was on that podium after the last game of the season, he's frustrated, and he talks about that, and he goes to be better this season. How do you harness that as a coach? Because on one hand, I feel like you want a guy to have that self-motivation, but you also don't want him to beat himself up.
Yeah. Conversations, you keep talking about Eden is. He expresses his emotion. He doesn't hold much back. I think he's authentic that way, and that's some of the reasons that I really like him. Does get, he's competitive, so he's hard on himself, and so we do we continue to talk through when things go really well, things don't. And I think he'll be better again after 1 year doing it, going on to the next year.
I think why do you trust him so much as a quarterback? Where does that come from?
Well, I watch him his work, his day to day, how much effort and work he puts into it, his enjoyment. He loves this game. He works at this game. The type of teammate he is, and then throw in obviously some talent and skill set.
Coach, you said after the Michigan State game last year, heading into Michigan State, you really started to sense the genuine dislike. Now you got a lot more time to live in the state of Michigan, being with the Michigan State program. Has that been heightened in your mind, or just more aware of that rivalry?
Well, experiencing it for the first time, yeah, heightened, aware. I mean, call it bitterness, the passion of that sucker. That's a game I won't soon forget.
And a couple days ago, Michigan editor Derek Moore said he planned to take a belt to Michigan State's behind. Is that the type of thing that you remember once the pads come on during the regular season?
Yeah, I'm sure that stuff gets brought up closer to the game.
Do you think there's a discernible difference on the demands of a Big Ten quarterback compared to other conferences? I mean, you being in the Pac-12 with weather differences, anything like that?
Yeah, I don't know the difference. I just know it is demanding. Let's face it, the talent playing on the other side, the pass rush, the schematics defensively, especially on the road, the atmospheres these quarterbacks have to play in the conference is tough. The attention, right, the biggest stage. So there's something that comes with that. It's a challenging for not just the quarterback, but in particular the quarterback. This thing's not easy.
What was the recruitment of it like when you were at Oregon State, going all the way back? Like, what were those first interactions?
He out of high school, he transferred a little bit, had an injury, and so he was a little bit unproven. But we were able to see him in spring practice and felt like obviously the skill set was there. He hadn't had a bunch of tape. This was going all the way back to his junior year. Then getting around him through the recruiting process, beautiful family, mom and dad, athletic family. His younger brother's a big-time basketball player. And so we just tried to stay consistent and honest through the process of that.
Do you feel like the honesty part of things in recruiting nowadays is more important than some of the offering guys XYZ spot?
I think it's almost at all of it, what you're doing, whether it's recruiting, but day to day and how you're developing and dealing with everyone, I mean with you guys, right? I just think that approach is really, really important. There's no question that there's a financial side to this thing now that is an important piece to a lot, and I get it. I'm not here to say that 18-year-old can make hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's not going to be a factor in this thing.
Jonathan, there's some programs that are saying they're not even going to recruit high school. It's going to be all transfer portal. But with the changes, is high school recruiting even becoming more important than ever?
I still think it's vitally important. Yep, and we still want to do it, and we want to do it at a high level. I think in this day and age, though, as we will always supplement our roster through the portal, but we want to build the majority of the newcomers each year. And if the longer we can keep this thing going, we get into more and more years where it gets more and more high school heavy and less of the portal. That's our approach.
What do you do to improve yourself as a leader and a coach?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of ways I want to. I think my perspective. You always catching yourself on perspective, energy level, and be able to the ability to focus, not overreacting. I think the way the leader, call it, speaks, even the tone and the approach, and sets the temperature for the building. And I always got my eyes on those kind of things.
Your approach is different than coaches in the past here at Michigan State. Do you sense that at all? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Not a ton. I mean, I definitely have leaned on Coach D through conversations. Look forward to seeing him this weekend at the alumni golf tournament, coming back with all the former players. Coach D will be back around, so be able to continue to learn from him, asking things, and he's the one that sticks out to me in regards to former coaches.
Earlier this summer, Maverick Hansen told me your greatest strength was the way you listen, and that he learned that he wasn't a very good listener by watching how well you listened. Is that part of your skill set in building relationships?
I don't know, I know early on I wanted to learn, and so I think some of the best learning for where the program's at or how it's going is from the players. So I try to be really intentional on the players, on learning and hearing from them, and I do that really every year post spring ball. I get with every single player on the roster post spring ball and ask them a bunch about what their experience has been like, and so I do enjoy learning from others.
Can you relay some of what they told you? Formed like your philosophies offensively through your career, and this might be like another 40-minute thing, like Jim was saying, but like I think at Oregon State you guys were under center more than any team in the country. Like, and you've been in the game when the spread sort of came about and revolutionized everything. You guys do some stuff that you would see 25 years ago, ish, in some ways. So I'm just curious, sort of like where you sort of built this in terms of how you want to play offense.
Yeah, it's definitely evolved. I think a couple of things. You got into the RPO game, right? And so that's all out of the gun, and you're play action, and you're trying to hold. We didn't feel like we were going to be able to push the ball as vertically in the play action game versus a play action fake from under the center when you're taking back 7 yards to the back. I did want to be a little bit unique, and you're getting at less and less people were playing under the center with some of this wide zone and things, and so that evolved to feeling like we were unique. Our recruiting side of it, where we were at in the Northwest, felt like that tight end position, the outside linebacker, we could recruit to that. So putting multiple tight ends, physical brand of football, being able to throw it down the field further. I'm always a believer in the run game. And so, you get to this physical brand where you can finish games running the ball, and that's some of the offense. Now, look, we're still, I think if statistically throw a third down in it, we're getting in the gun half the time. But we do have a base that we can play physical in the center to be able to action pass and finish games.
Is that the thing that you kind of get excited about for year two, that being in the system for a second year, that you guys will start being more physical?
And the detail of being in the system, we create more competition, line of scrimmage, and growth and development. Guys that have been in the system, another year of the weight room, all our nutrition and the facilities, the people working with them, confident we can be better.
Can you relay some of the things that you heard from players after the spring during the meetings? Were there some repeating themes?
I'll ask them about a lot. I know they really, the strength staff's one of the best things we got going, and the work that's getting done, and that staff, they enjoyed that part. We take a huge step on our nutrition side. With Nick being here and implementing some things and that, because he's detailed with each individual guy, they have an individual plan for what they want to get accomplished in their body, whether we're talking gain, loss, body fat percentage. There's a lot that I like there. Schedule, I went a ton. Schedule, practice plans, how we're doing it, the locker room itself, academics, talk about the training room. So I ask them all these aspects of the program and hear what they have to say.
Jonathan, you mentioned all your time in the Northwest and tight end specifically. Do you have any thoughts of, like, from a proportionality standpoint, like the state of Oregon, if it produces FBS players, it seems to be disproportionately at the tight end position, like compared to states of comparable size and populations. Like, it's kind of wild, like why that is over the, like, you played it, you coached at multiple different schools that, like, over 25 years, it's probably produced as many FBS or Power 4 tight ends.
It's interesting. I don't know the exact stats, but you're right. I'm just starting to think about some of the tight ends that I played with or coached, all the way back to Marty Maurer, right, to Musgrave, to Tegan Quintariano, and those guys all from the state and big-time players got shots in the NFL and drafted. I don't know, man, because you're looking at 6'5", right, that can turn into the 250, 260 athletic. A lot of guys play basketball in Oregon, so too, you're looking for that athleticism and getting that height. I don't know. They've been there.
Does anyone really play the traditional tight end position in college? In high school, because it seems like
that's another thing, evaluation, right?
It takes a long time, right?
Yeah, because some of these guys are more receiver that need to move close to the line of scrimmage and that, because there's not a ton of schemes where if guys are Division I players, probably one of the best players on your team if you're in high school. And you're probably not just going to sit him right next to the left or right tackle. He's not going to affect the game as much. So it's harder to evaluate at high school.
Another player that was added after the spring, Anthony Penace, a guy originally from Southeast Michigan, junior college route, I think. Did you get a good look? I'm sure you got a good look at him when you were evaluating. What did you think and early thoughts about him since he's been on campus?
I know this will be a nice step up for him and what we got going. I added piece that he's been working, and I look forward to seeing how it plays out for him in August. But we're confident in his abilities to be able to help us.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.